Hi, this is Joe Garcia. Welcome to another episode of the Countdown 210. We are joined by our very special guest all the way from Alabama, Tom Tom. How you doing, Tom Tom?
Hey, what's going on, Joe?
Well, I'm sure you're disappointed just as I am. Spurs went ahead and lost a tough one in Chicago, 92 to 89. It wasn't for a lack of trying, though. I mean, Kawhi Leonard had an outstanding game. He had 25 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 assists on the night. It was just better execution by the Bulls down the stretch that was really, I guess you could say, was the outcome of the game. The Spurs did play a decent game. They just didn't play good enough to win. And I'll let you explain a little bit more about that because we talked about the reason behind the disappointing loss. So I'll go ahead and let you tell the people, what's going down.
Okay, well, this was definitely a heartbreaking loss, and the fact that we had a 10-point lead at one point in time that made it make it even more of a disappointment. That just add to the sting of this loss.
Adding salt
And
to the wound.
right, right, and I believe the key to this loss, like I said earlier, was that the bench. We can't
Yep.
have we can't have David West and Boris
Bobo.
Diaw as our power forward and center tandem. They get exploited every single time, especially when you got Joakim Noah and Paul Gasol in there together.
Yep. I mean, it's evident, that they're not that great tandem. They get exploited, and it's in part because, for one, Boris Diaw is a little step too slow. Bobo isn't the fastest guy on the floor, but he's great when he's on offense. It's his defense that's a little lacking, especially when you're going up against a great player in Gasol or Joakim Noah, someone who knows how to put that ball on the floor, can post up, spin around, hit a little jumper. I mean, it's tough for them to handle. They can't
And then
cover those types of players.
no, and to make things worse, you don't have a rim protector in the game. That's
No.
why I said you need to stagger Lamarcus Aldridge and Tim Duncan, have one of them in the game at all times.
Yep, and we talked a little bit about that too in the before we started the show. Basically, what we're saying is they need to go. It's good for them to start Lamarcus Aldridge, Tim Duncan, Tony Parker. Lamarcus is going to be the future going forward, and he needs to get comfortable out there. The issue is Pop needs to take out Lamarcus Aldridge right around that 3:50, maybe 5 minute mark in the first quarter. Sit him down, bring out whoever's going to, be his backup, whether it be Bobo, West, they want to put in Boban, whoever they want to put in, and let them get some playing time, and then go ahead and let Lamarcus start with the bench players because he plays a better overall game with the bench. He's a defensive anchor as far as being the rim protector and not allowing those easy buckets as we saw, the Bulls go ahead and it was easy for them to get to the rim when the second unit was on the floor. We saw that
Right,
it was very evident, that they couldn't guard or protect the rim. They couldn't guard those players. They were too athletic for them.
right. Those second chance points killed us.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. We talked about that. When you have that second unit on the floor, and that's the Achilles heel of the second unit, rebounds. They are not a great rebounding second unit. They always give up the second, third, fourth chance opportunities. And if you give a team that many attempts at the basket, that many shots, they're going to go in. And that's what we saw. They try to get out to the rebounds, but it's just the second unit just isn't a good rebounding team. Do you agree with that?
Not at all. That's why that's why I said one of those two need to be in the game at all times, and I wouldn't be opposed to Boban Marjanovic getting playing time too. Nobody is gonna get a
Yeah.
rebound over him.
No, no. He can box out. That's the thing is that we need someone that's going to box out. and that's the issue with the second unit. You see it; it's evident. They're not good at boxing out. They let people in the lane too easily. They're not at that right spot on the floor boxing out, and it's just not happening. You know that they get exploited bad, especially during crunch time. You know, and it's fairly evident what needs to happen. We just hope that we're not we don't get paid to be the coaches, but we just hope that
Right.
they make a better decision going forward because that is the Spurs' Achilles heel.
Right. Hopefully, Pop realized that, but maybe I want to give him the benefit of the doubt because of the five championships. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt and hope that he's still in the experimental stages and not wanting to tip his hand too early.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I think he's doing the experiment, the pop experiment right now. He usually doesn't start really finding out what he wants to do right till right around after the All-Star break is when we
Yeah,
start
around the
seeing.
rodeo trip.
Yeah, that's when we really start seeing that final cut. All right, this is my first unit. This is my second unit. These are the people that I'm going to go with moving forward because he knows he has to get the team acclimated to play with each other before they start getting into the playoffs. So we start seeing that final cut, if you could say, happen right around or before the rodeo road trip. So I'm sure he'll fine tune it and he'll dial it in. But right now it's clearly evident, that the Spurs are having issues against teams. For one, this is the thing with the Spurs. The Spurs are a great team, but the only way that you're going to be able to counter that is that you have to play good team ball. You can't make very many mistakes if you want to beat the Spurs, and you have to be a great defensive team. The Bulls were both of those tonight. The Bulls played great team basketball. A lot of people were scoring, everybody was contributing, and they also played great defense against the Spurs. And that's what you need to do in order to beat them. It's not
Right.
rocket science, it's just hard to execute, you know?
Right. And the Bulls made baskets and got stops when it counted.
Yep, they sure did. The Spurs looked a little complacent out there in the final minutes of the fourth quarter. I contributed to them actually running out of gas a little bit. They looked a little tired, especially that second unit out there on the floor. Um, I know Kawhi Leonard was trying to do the best he can, and he had an outstanding game. He had a couple. He did a crossover on Gibson and made him look stupid. he
Yeah,
had
that
a
was nasty.
Yeah, man, that was nasty. That was a nasty spin move he put up on him. Uh, he had another one on Butler, Jimmy Butler. He just basically crossed that brother over, and I mean,
And
I
went
mean,
and threw that down in traffic.
yeah, he just was taking over the game, and it's not like you were saying. It's not like we're surprised by it. It's evident at this point in the season that Kawhi Leonard is actually the best player for the Spurs. He is the best two whatever you want to say it. He is outstanding. He's doing his thing on the offensive end and on the defensive end. I mean, he is just on a whole other level. If he's not in the MVP talks, there's something wrong.
He better be in the MVP talk. Like I said earlier, he's the best two-way player in the league.
He is, and he has to be in those MVP talks. If he doesn't get the MVP or he's not in the talks, it'd be a travesty. But for sure, he's gonna get maybe most improved player or defensive player of the year again, because I mean he's putting up those numbers.
I can easily see him getting both of those.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he did because if you compare his offensive game to where he is this year compared to last year, something happened. He whatever that switch was, he turned it on. He figured something out in the off season, and lo and behold, here we are in the regular season, and it's like we have a whole other player on the court. Somebody that just was given the green light. We said the changing of the guard, and when that happened when he actually won the Finals MVP. And it is true this year. You can see it on the court. He knows he's the man.
I would I would say so too. And if you look at his numbers over the years, he improved, every single year. He averaged 8 points his rookie year, but he was mostly coming off the bench behind Richard Jefferson until they traded him to Golden State.
Yep.
Then his second year, he went from 8 points to 12 points. Then the year that the Spurs won the last championship, he averaged 13 points that year. On up to 16 and a half last year, and this year he's up to 22.
Yep. That's he's been putting up some numbers. One
His
thing that kind of
rebounds went up too.
oh yeah, yeah, definitely. One thing that kind of surprised me out of tonight's game was how well LaMarcus Aldridge actually did play. He got his
Oh
points.
man.
He found his shot.
Oh, man, he was getting off, especially that first quarter. He just would not miss.
Yeah, he was just that little patented fadeaway.
It was he
Just
was he was hitting it over
boom.
everybody.
Yeah, he just stepped
Over
back.
everybody.
He looked like he had a Dirk Nowitzki out there.
Right.
He was
Right.
just hitting that ball, man. He was just hitting it, hit. Didn't matter who was in front of him.
He missed his first one, and then he went made like six in a row. I'm like, man, this man can't miss. And he had 21 points and 11 rebounds at the end of three quarters. I thought he was gonna have about 25 and 18 for the game the way he was playing.
Yeah, I mean, he had a double double, but if he would have played a little better, he might have had a triple double.
That's
He was
quite
playing
possible.
pretty good. He was playing pretty good. He had what did he have on the night? I think he had
Yeah,
like
20.
12 rebounds.
Yeah, 21 points, 12 rebounds. That last rebound in the fourth quarters were gave him 12, but he had 21 and 11 after three,
Yeah.
and then he got a block too.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah. He did have a block.
but man, that for those first three quarters, that was the LaMarcus Aldridge that we saw in Portland.
Yeah.
That's what we used to seeing from him.
Yeah, that's what we need to see out of him. He's feeling a little bit more comfortable in the Spurs system, and he just needs a little bit more time to adjust. Hopefully he'll. It looks like he's going to be coming around before we hit that rodeo road trip, and that's when we're really going to need him, because that's the time when we're already starting to make that run for that seeding in the playoffs, and we can't lose those games. They're very important.
Right.
Um,
He'll need to be more assertive, and start calling for the ball, especially when it's a mismatch. But
oh yeah.
I got a feeling that once that time comes, we're gonna see the Spurs kick it up a notch, and we're gonna start seeing some double digit winning streaks.
Yeah, I would assume they would put about, 12, 13, 14 games in a row, possibly even more uh,
Right.
when that time comes, because they're going to be more seasoned, and they're going to have a lot more team chemistry. One thing that did surprise me today is the Spurs had a total of, what was it, 89 points. Out of those 89 points, Kawhi Leonard and LaMarcus Aldridge contributed 46 out of those 89 points.
Right.
And
They needed
that,
one more person to step up, and that's what hurt.
yep, exactly. That's what hurt
Tony,
us. If you
yeah,
look at it,
Tony Parker. Yeah,
go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say Tony Parker is the only other player besides those two to be in double digits for the game, and he had 13.
Yeah, he did. Tim Duncan only had 6. Danny Green had 9 points. Manu only had 4 on the night. And, West, he only contributed, I think it was 2. Yeah, he had 2 points for the whole night. And Kyle
Right.
Anderson saw limited play. He was only out there for less than 5
five
minutes, and he really
minutes.
didn't do
Right.
nothing. I think he had nothing.
Nothing but a foul.
Yeah, nothing but a foul. Yeah, personal fouls. He had 1 foul. But part of that is a testament to the Bulls defense. The Bulls did play us tough. They played physical ball. That's what they're known for. But the Spurs just need to have better execution. They need to be a little bit more patient. I thought they kind of pushed the issue a little too much when the Bulls started clamping down on defense, and
Hmm.
it kind of cost them some shots. They got clumsy. They got a couple of turnovers. They made some bad shots that they shouldn't have taken. One of those shots was from LaMarcus Aldridge, when he came back down the court in transition, and he just turned around and just shot the ball right away. There was no reason for that. He just needed to settle down, let the team come back in, set up the play, and take a good shot. You don't want to have to rush the issue. I know he's trying to beat the double team, but that's not how you're going to win. You need to let your teammates set up, and if the double team is coming, you got to pass the ball, just like Charles Barkley used to do. And
Mm-hmm.
LaMarcus Aldridge needs to take a page out of that and learn. A lot of people hate Charles Barkley, but you know what? He knew how to play the double team better than any other person I've pretty much seen in the NBA. I mean, he was a mastermind when it came down to breaking down that double team. He would
I
just bait people.
I would say so too, and that's why we got Kawhi watching film of him against double teams.
Yeah, exactly. I wrote an article about that, or I posted an article up there about Kawhi Leonard actually learning to break down the double team by watching old videos of Charles Barkley, and that's something that he needs to really take notice, because you don't have to try to beat the double team with your physicality. You have to beat them with your mind. And if you're thinking, you have the correct mindset of, what, this double team's coming, I know it's coming, let me try to make the best decision. And that's the thing, you got to make good decisions. You make poor decisions, that ball's flying the other way, and somebody's going to go in for a slam dunk you know
Right,
so
and
that Go ahead.
yeah, I was just gonna say, and on offense, I think we need to get Tim Duncan more involved. You know, six, seven
Yeah.
shots a game. That won't do it. Yeah, Kawhi and Lamarcus. Now they're gonna need a third person to step up and help them carry some of that scoring load. And I think we should get him more involved. 6 and 7 shots a game. That's not enough. And
Yeah, it's not enough. He needs a little bit more shot attempts than that if he's going to be putting up at least, 10, 12, 15 points a game. Six shots isn't going to cut it.
not at all. And I see him. I notice him passing up more shots this year than he used to.
Yeah,
And
there's a reason why he's doing that. If you notice the shots that he's passing up, he's trying to give the ball more to LaMarcus. He's trying to help him
to
develop
get
his
him
game a
more
little bit
comfortable,
more. Yeah,
getting him acclimated faster.
Yeah, you see that too. I mean, he gets it.
Hmm.
Timmy will get the ball, and right away he's looking for Lamarcus, because Marcus looks a little lost, and by giving him the ball, he knows that he's getting a little bit more comfortable. That's kind of like a security blanket for him. I
Right,
got the
right,
ball.
and
I'm the man. I'm gonna make the shot. And that's what Timmy's trying to do. He's trying to get him
right,
going.
and trying to send him the message that he believes in him, and that as the captain of the team, and the rest of the team believes in him,
Yeah,
that they
there
need
was.
it, and that they need his scoring to pace them.
Yep. There was a play there, I think it was in the first half, where Timmy actually set up LaMarcus Aldridge. He saw the double team coming. He passed him the ball. LaMarcus went ahead and he went up against Paul Gasol, and he gave him a little pump fake, and Paul was right there on him, but he went ahead and leaned right into him, put the body into him, and then followed through with the nice layup off the glass. And Timmy was really proud of LaMarcus. He came down the court and he was patting his back and he was smiling at him, telling him like, "Good job." That's what we need. That's what we need.
Right,
I saw him say that with his mouth. That's what we need. So I was like, yeah, he's trying to get him going. He knows that he's almost there. So
right,
even
and then that's his idol too. So he gonna listen to everything Tim is telling him.
Yeah, but Lamarcus just he's I'm starting to see him feel a little comfortable, more comfortable. He's not
Hmm.
trying to rush the issue now. He's trying to wait a little bit and see what the defense gives you. You can't try to force shots up there, because if you don't got your feet set for one, and you're not getting a good look, you're not going to make a good shot. You're probably going to miss. And then the rebound's going to hit the front of the rim and come off, and who's going to get it? The opposing team, you know? So I
Right.
think he's learning. I think he's learning.
And then another thing that hurt us tonight too was shooting only 2 out of 14 from three.
Oh
Ice
man.
cold.
But you know what? That is the way that the games are going to be played going forward. The Spurs are no longer a 3-point shooting threat. They have 3-point shooters, but they don't have nearly as many as they used to in years past. The only way that
Right.
the Spurs are going to be able to counter the three is what they had been doing throughout the year, and that's limiting opponents' 3-point shots.
Right. Run them off the line.
Yeah. And the Spurs actually, they wrote some articles about the Spurs, and I was reading them. It was quite interesting because we've all seen this, but we probably kind of overlooked it. What the Spurs have done to counter the three is that they've elevated their game a little bit. They are kind of playing a hybrid type of basketball where they're limiting the opponents' 3 pointers. They're taking less 3 pointers, but they're taking more long 2 point shots. And
Hmm.
when they're doing that, they're settling for that long two instead of that long three. It's still 2 points. It's not three, but you're getting the defense from the opposing team to spread out, and that's what they need. They need them to respect the shot. And even though they don't have the good 3 point shooters that they used to in the past, they're making the team still respect them by hitting that long two. And that's something that I've seen this year as far as the game changing for the Spurs. Have you noticed that too?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they know that they don't have the shooters that they had in the past, but it's very ingenious the way that Pop does these little subtle changes to still keep them going. I thought that was pretty clever.
Yeah. Start. Yeah. Kind of remind me of the Spurs from 15 years ago.
Yeah, in the '80s.
Yeah, when we had the twin towers.
Oh yeah, yeah, I remember that. Man, that was way back.
Yeah, that was my favorite time as a Spurs fan.
Yep, I remember those. I remember those days specifically. One thing that also surprised me that we got the word in this week is that Kobe Bryant's actually decided to retire after this season. That's something he should have done 2 years ago. He's just finally noticing that his legs they're just not there no more. When
I
you
would
when
I
you're
would
letting
say
other guys that you used to be able to break down that they can break you down now, I mean it's time to go.
I'd say he should have retired 3 years ago, if you ask me.
Yeah, that's when he had when he had ruptured his Achilles during that time.
Right. So three straight seasons ending with injuries.
It was
You know,
Achilles, then it was the shoulder, right? He tore the rotator cuff.
yeah, and it was a knee
Oh
in
yeah,
another season too.
yeah. It was the knee, the Achilles, and then he tore his rotator cuff. I remember that, and he was
Yeah.
done for the season. He couldn't. He had to have surgery.
So 3 years in a row,
Yeah.
ending the
So,
season with injury. That if that's not a sign to give it up, I don't know what is.
but the thing with Kobe is that he'd been playing since he was 18, right out of high school. He's been playing in the league for 20 years already.
Yep.
And it's going to take a toll on your body. It doesn't matter if you started as a young man or you came in at 21, 22. It takes a toll on the body. When you've been in there that many years and you're bumping and grinding and you're flying through the air and slam dunking and falling hard to the ground. I mean, the heart's willing, no doubt, because he's a competitor. The body just says, I can't no more.
Right.
And that's
Yeah.
what he said in that little poem that he put. You see that on Twitter? He says the mind
Yeah.
is sharp, the heart's willing, but the body he just knows it's ready to say goodbye.
That's right. Not everybody can beat Tim Duncan and age gracefully.
No, he's aged like a moldy piece of bread.
Yeah.
Tim Duncan's more like that fine wine. It just tastes better as it gets older.
Exactly.
So yeah, man. I mean, it's one of those things. You know what happens? He is a legend. Not gonna doubt that. He does have the hardware to prove it, and he's a great player in his own right. I mean, the brother did score what 81 points.
Yeah. 81 points in the game.
So I mean, you got to hand it to him, man. I mean, that's a tough call in today's league to score 81 points, and he did it against Toronto.
Yep. He had 62 at the end of three quarters. I remember that.
Yeah, I was like, wow.
And they sat him halfway through the fourth quarter. He probably could have flirted with Wilt's record if he would have stayed in the game.
Yeah, but I think that's something that the coach said, nah, we got to leave that record
Yeah.
untouched. But I mean,
Hmm.
somebody's going to break it. It's going to happen. It might not happen in my lifetime, but it'll happen. somebody will come in there and score more than 100 points in one game and break Wilt's record. Finally, Kobe came pretty damn close.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, my son has a saying. He's a Kobe fan. He likes Kobe. He doesn't like the Lakers. He likes Kobe's style of play, and he always tells me Kobe's a goat. And I said, yeah, I agree with you on that one. Just like Tim Duncan's a goat for the Spurs.
Hmm.
and
And I don't see how anybody can think that Kobe is the greatest player in the post Michael Jordan generation. That when we know who that player is clearly.
Yeah, I was telling my son about that. He said Kobe Bryant's better than Michael Jordan.
What?
I said
What?
no, sir.
No, no,
I tell
no,
him
no,
no,
no.
no. I tell him no, sir. I said you're mistaken, son. I said I saw Michael Jordan play against the Spurs when he came to San Antonio. I actually saw him play. I think 3 times when he played against the Spurs, and there was just greatness surrounding Michael Jordan. I got a one of a kind card hanging up on my wall. I pay homage to Michael Jordan, one of the greats. He wasn't a Spur, but I was a fan of the game. And
You know he could have been a Spur, right?
yeah, I know he could have been a Spur. I heard the story. Go ahead and tell the people.
Okay, for anybody that don't know, um, and when David Robinson was young, it was a league wide school of thought that he would be one of the 10 greatest I mean 10 greatest
Players.
players ever, or even top five. And it was the Bulls even discussed had internal discussions before the 92 and 93 seasons about calling the Spurs and offering the Spurs Michael Jordan for David Robinson
Yeah,
straight up.
straight up. Yeah, straight up trade. Ain't that something?
Yeah, that would have been
Man,
interesting.
that would have been very interesting to have. I mean, Michael Jordan as a San Antonio Spur. Wow, you just never know what could have happened there, especially
Right.
with the coaches that they had. Because I think right around that time, who was the coach of the Spurs when they were talking about doing this trade? Was it still Larry Brown?
It was Larry Brown, and then after that, who was it?
Tarkane? No, no, no,
Tar-
Lucas.
yeah, Tarkanian, and then Jerry
Lucas.
Lucas. I
Yeah,
mean John
John
Lucas.
Lucas. Yeah, Tarkanian, then it was John Lucas, and then it was Bob Hill,
Yeah,
and then
Bob
after
Hill.
him it was Greg Popovich because Greg Popovich was the
Mhm.
GM. The Spurs started into that horrible season, and then
Yeah.
Pop finally gave Hill the boot because he actually Pop. What happened is that Pop really wanted to coach. He really did want to coach the Spurs, and he felt the calling, so they got rid of Hill, and the rest is history.
Well, he actually, after Larry Brown got fired, he went to Red McCombs and asked him for the job outright. And
Yeah,
Red McCombs didn't think he was ready. So that's a big part of the reason why after that season was over, he left the Spurs and went to Golden State for a couple of years to be a
with Nelly,
assistant coach.
with Nelly.
Yeah,
Yeah, Pop learned a lot from Nelly. He attributes a lot of his basketball knowledge of how to coach. You know, those are the things that he learned with Nelly. I mean, Nelly wasn't one to preach defense so much. He was always push the ball, run the ball, that high tempo offense.
he
But he
learned the
did,
defense from Larry Brown.
yeah, yeah, he did. He learned. Popovich did learn a lot, and he learned. He had a lot of good teachers. He had a lot of good mentors. So I was like, wow, it just to hear the upbringing that he had, as far as the people that he had in his life and who he learned from. And now we have one of the greatest coaches in NBA history, and Greg Popovich.
And that just reminded me, going back to David Robinson, just think of how much better a player he would have been if he would have had Pop as his coach his whole career, like Tim did.
Wow. Can you imagine the championships he could have won?
Yeah,
Wow.
and he would have had a much better supporting cast, that than than he had his first 8 years.
Yeah.
And you know that just reminded me, David Robinson. When you watch him, and I strongly agree with Pat Riley. You know, he was the spitting image of Bill Russell, just a better athlete, and he was bigger.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, coming out of college or coming into the NBA, he was supposed to be Bill Russell. That's who Larry Brown wanted him to pattern his game after. But since the Spurs didn't had the supporting cast around him, and shooters, he had to do it all.
Yeah.
He didn't have a post game, but he had to score against Hakeem Olajuwon, Patrick Ewing, and Shaq. Who was the best centers in that era. And not only did he have to score against them, but he had to keep them from scoring and lead the fast break.
Yeah. He sure did.
And I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, no,
But
no.
I
I was
had,
saying,
I
yeah,
had
he sure did. I was agreeing with you.
okay, and I got a little comparison that I wrote a blog a couple of years ago, and as a way to put this in perspective. Okay, um, what if Bill Russell? What if they switched places? What if Bill Russell came into the NBA in 1989 and went to a team with only one player besides him who would ever make an All-Star team, and that was the case for the first 8 years of his career. I'm talking about Sean Elliott,
Yeah.
and even though he is defensive specialist, he had a supporting cast of subpar offensive players, limited range shooters, and you even had a transcendent rebounder who couldn't even make a layup. Now check this out. What if David Robinson came into the NBA in 1956
Wow.
and he was only asked to do two things: rebound and block shots? He had a supporting cast stacked with Bob Cousy, Bill Sharman, and Tommy Heinsohn, who happened to be three of the greatest offensive players of that era, who made all-star teams for years to come, even the Hall of Fame. And the next year, he ended up getting Sam Jones, another Hall of Famer that would be one of the all-time great shooters in NBA history. Now, which one of these men would have 11 championships?
Wow. That would have been very interesting. Very, very
Right.
interesting.
And I just want to add a little bit more to that, and by saying, you can't help but wonder how much different things would have been for him if for David Robinson, if the Spurs had the pieces that would allow him to thrive in that Bill Russell uh, role. But the Spurs actually had a golden opportunity to make that a reality in the summer 1992. You remember that, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and for anybody that's listening to this that don't know this history, um, it actually almost did happen until Red McCombs blocked the move at the last minute. The Spurs and the 76ers had a trade worked out that would have sent Terry Cummings and Willie Anderson to the Sixers and Charles Barkley back to the Spurs.
Yeah.
You know, the trade was already agreed to, but Red McCombs vetoed it at the last minute.
Yeah, I
And
remember that. Charles Barkley even said something about that. I think in one of it's hard to find it online, but if you can find it, it's one of those obscure interviews. And
mhm,
he even said that was a myth, but he said it was true.
yeah, and what happened after that trade was Terry Cummings blew out his knee playing a pickup game in Chicago. So the Sixers traded Charles Barkley to the Suns, and he ended up being the league MVP.
Yeah.
And you know, eliminating the Spurs on the way to carrying the Suns to the finals.
That's when he shot that late two over David Robinson
Yeah,
at
to
Hemisphere
shut the
Arena.
hemisphere down. Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, I remember that like it was
Yep.
yesterday.
Clock running down. It's just the Admiral and the round mound of rebound, Charles Barkley, and he just went ahead and did a little, just took a step back and did a little fadeaway jump shot, and it was money, and that was it.
Right.
You
That
know,
was it.
that was pretty much the end of the ball game there, and he took Thunder Dan with him. Remember Dan Marley?
Hmm.
Dan Marley, and who was their point guard? I forgot his name.
KJ,
It's
Kevin Johnson.
Kevin Johnson. There you go. He was quick, man. That brother
Hmm.
was fast. He was lightning quick.
Yeah, and I remember him dunking on Hakeem Olajuwon at
Yeah,
one
I
time.
remember that. Yeah, Hakeem Olajuwon. Yeah, he got dunked on by KJ, and I remember that other dunk from what's his name? Not Stockton,
John
Starks.
Starks.
Starks. Yeah, I remember
Hmm.
that. He just went up and he kind of put his arm out like that, and he just dunked it. Boom.
Yeah, that was in that finals.
Yeah, that was
But
nasty.
yeah, and one last point about what we just talked about. Now, don't get me wrong. Uh, I couldn't be happier with the way things worked out for the Spurs to get Tim Duncan. As a matter of fact, that's my favorite all-time NBA player. But you
Yeah,
just can't help but think for a second. The Spurs, what might have been if they could have had a big three of David Robinson, Charles Barkley, and Sean Elliott all in their primes. And if you got a chance to get a player like Charles Barkley without giving up having to give up one of your best players, you got to do that. You
yeah.
can't just pass on that kind of opportunity to improve your team. Chances to get an MVP caliber player for next to nothing don't come around too often.
That it don't. That it don't. But let's talk. Let's get back on track and talk about the Spurs' next opponent. It's going to be the
Yeah.
Milwaukee Bucks coming up on Wednesday at 7:30. They're going to be back at home at the AT&T Center. I think the game's going to be broadcast on Fox Sports Southwest and on WOAI 1200 AM radio. The Milwaukee Bucks have had a rough go of it. Uh, Jason Kidd, he's been having a little bit of issues,
Yeah,
and
getting kicked out of games.
getting kicked out of games for not what was it for not handing the ball. He got mad and he didn't want to give back the ball or something stupid
Yeah,
like that.
knocked the ball out of ref hand.
Yeah, that's what it was. Oh
I
man, he let
actually,
his temper get the best of him, man. That he's always been like that though. He was even when he played with the Mavericks, he was the same. He would let his temper get the best of him all the time, and Nelly would be screaming at him on the bench.
yep. And I remember him going through that some in New Jersey
Yeah, he
with
went through the
Byron
same
Scott.
thing. Yeah, he sure did. He would get yelled at a lot, not by Byron Scott himself, but also by the players because of the dumb stuff he would do on the court. That would cost them the game or cost them. And it was like key moments in the game where he would decide to lose his temper. You know, and it was just stupidity. That's
And that
all it was. Stupidity.
and that's and that's what ended up costing him and possibly cost him a shot at getting the ring before he actually did get one.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I got a good question for you. You tell me if you let me see if you can answer this one. I've been stumping a lot of people with this trivia question. What Spur? I don't know if I told you or not. Let's see if you can get it. What Spur played with all three Texas teams, including San Antonio, Houston, and the Mavericks, and went to the finals as a Spur and as a Maverick? And this is a former
Oh,
San Antonio player.
yeah, man. Woo. Man, I off the top of my head went to the finals as a. Oh, it's Avery Johnson.
There you go. There you go. I knew you would get it.
Right. I
Everybody
can't.
else was getting stumped.
Right. I'm writing a book about this team. How could I not know that?
Yeah, there you go. I knew you would get it. It would just going to take you a little bit because you're like, okay, I'm going through the players in my mind, and then it's like, boom, that's the one. I knew you would get that one. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize Avery Johnson. He just didn't play with the three Texas teams. He also played as a Nugget. Wasn't he on the Denver Nuggets at one time as well?
Yeah, matter of fact, he ended his career with the Nuggets.
Yeah, he was over there. He played a short stint with them. Then he came
What? Mm-hmm.
and he came over here and he did his rounds. You know, he was a well traveled player.
Yeah, you know he
Uh,
was with the Seattle SuperSonics too.
yeah. He was a well traveled player. He had played with several ball clubs. He came and played with the Spurs, played with the Houston Rockets, and then played with the Mavericks. And I
Yep.
was like, wow. And he went to the finals on two different Texas teams as a Spur and as a Maverick. And I was
And
like, wow.
he coached the Mavericks into the finals.
Yeah. And how about that too? You know, that has to be some type of history right there. You know, for a player to play in two finals with two different teams and then to be a coach of that same team and take them to the finals, not as a player but as a coach. I was like, wow, that's
Mm-hmm.
a great accomplishment. The little
And
general.
then yeah, and then Avery played for the Golden State Warriors too,
Yeah, he sure did. Played for the Golden State Warriors.
twice.
Yeah. Who was the one of the best Euro players, and he played for Golden State Warriors.
Sarunas Marciulionis.
No, for the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, Sarunas Marciulionis
Yes,
did play for Golden
Barcelona.
State.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He played for Golden State. He was one of the best Euro players up until the time of Manu Ginobili. When Manu Ginobili came in, he just was like took it to a whole other level. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, Sarunas Marciulionis, he was good, and he also had what was his name, Kukoc. Remember Tony
Tony
Kukoc?
Kukoc. He
Yep.
was supposed to be. He was labeled the European Michael Jordan.
Yeah. Tony Kukoc, the one guy that I really wish we could have seen a lot more of. We got him near the end of his career. Arvidas Sabonis. Man, that boy could
Ooh.
pass that ball, man, and he could
Yeah.
shoot the three. He
Yeah.
was a something
A
that was
7'3" Larry Bird.
yeah. I mean, this guy had some game. Can you imagine if we would have gotten him here in the NBA when he was in his prime? Man, we would have been in for something special with that guy.
Oh yeah, I think he would have been dogging Hakeem Olajuwon, Kareem, and all those other top centers at that time.
Hey, because he had a little shake and bake move himself.
And then a center shooting a center with his range that was unheard of. So that would have meant yeah, he would have revolutionized it, and he would have been the first 7 foot 3-point shooter instead of Dirk.
Yeah, because I mean, he could just shoot the heck out of that ball, and his passing skills were. I mean, it was unheard of. You'd see the guy when he's playing with the Portland Trailblazers, and some of these behind the back passes that he used to do, and these little, bounce passes in traffic. I was like, wow, I never seen a big man do that before. You know, it was amazing to watch him play. I wish we would have had him on
Hmm.
our team.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That definitely would have been nice. A combination of him and David Robinson.
Ooh, man, that would have been scary. That would have been more than the Twin Towers.
Oh yeah,
That would have been like the Great Wall right there.
oh yeah, that would have been.
Oh man. You know what? I'm gonna get off topic real quick, but I'm gonna tell you something, man. These Cowboys, man, they just being a Cowboy fan this year has been tough.
Oh, it's been brutal on it's been brutal.
Oh man. You have the cutting of Joseph Randall. The brother was still in underwear and cologne, and you're a multimillionaire. And then he's had a lot of personal issues off the field, and it finally just caught up with him, and they had enough. And then they get bring in Greg Hardy, and he's toxic as well, and it's just one thing after another. Greg Hardy, he's good in his own right, but it's just his off-field antics, man. And then you get Dez, and then you get Tony Romo getting hurt, and I mean, even if the Cowboys were at full strength and nobody was hurt, they would still have issues, and you gotta agree with that too. From what we've seen out of them this year, that
Yep.
secondary is soft as wet cake. There's holes all over that backfield. And their
Yep.
corners, oh man, don't even get me started on that.
The only good one to me in the secondary is Byron Jones.
Yeah, and
That's a
that's
rookie.
about it. Yeah, and that's about it. I mean, they need to start looking at the future. I mean, it's going to be a tough. I hate to say it, man. It looks like it's going to be a tough couple of years for the Cowboys. It looks like they're
Now,
going to be going into rebuilding mode pretty soon.
my first choice in the draft would be to get a running back. We
Yeah, they need
need
to get somebody.
Ezekiel Elliott or Derrick Henry. And you know what I would do? I would trade down a few spots, pick up a couple of extra picks, maybe even a extra first round pick, get one of those running backs.
Yeah, we need somebody quick. I mean, we should have never let DeMarco Murray go. And
Yeah,
now it's really hurting us because when your offense isn't clicking and you ain't got no running game, you got problems. And then they've been too complacent. You can literally sit down first first down. Oh, what are you gonna do? We're gonna run the ball. First down's coming up. Second down, we're gonna go ahead and pass.
and
Third down, we're gonna run the ball again.
too
I mean, it's just
predictable.
yeah, it's just too predictable. The play calling is horrific, horrific.
hmm And I
I'm
believe too, even with all of that, we've been wasting Dez's talents.
oh man, big time. But I mean, the thing is too, it's like he can't do it all by himself.
He can't, but
He needs help.
right. But even when we did have, a solid running game for those few years, I still say we would be wasting Dez's talents. They're lining him up in the same spot on the field instead of moving him around. Running some stack routes or some bubble screens. Just line him up. Just you can't let the defense take your top weapon out the game like that. Uh,
Yeah, they need to find the mismatches. I mean, come on. You can see it happening on the field. You know where you have a mismatch and where you don't, but they just haven't found a way to exploit that. And that's been, you know, asinine to me. It's like, how are you getting paid all this money and these us guys sitting out on the sofa can go ahead and break this game down better than the coaches that are getting paid all those millions of dollars.
right.
You
And
know? It,
I've always said that the Cowboys need to treat Dez the same way the Lions treat Calvin Johnson.
yeah. Oh man, it's gonna be one of those seasons. If the Cowboys do make the playoffs by some of God's miracle, I don't know what I'd do with myself.
Right. But I'm
I
already
wouldn't.
preparing for the draft in April.
Yeah, I wouldn't. If they make the playoffs by some miracle, I wouldn't count on them going very deep. I
No.
mean, they're already banged up. And who do we have as quarterback now? Because we got rid of Whedon. We only have Castle.
Yeah, and Kellen Moore, we just signed him. He'll be the backup.
Yeah, and it's like they need to start looking towards the future, and they need to start looking towards a quarterback. And this is a league that is run by quarterbacks. If you do not have a good quarterback, your team is not getting anywhere. And it's hard to
No.
find a good quarterback. It's very hard to find a quarterback. If you get a good quarterback and you give your team a shot, you know, even if the defense ain't all that, which the Cowboy D hasn't shown up, they were there last year because everybody was, trying to get these contracts. They were playing for the contract. And now
Yeah, it
that
was
they
a
got the
contract year
contract,
for a lot of them.
yeah, now that the contracts are all signed and everything, what we're seeing them out of this year is that they just really didn't care. You know, they're just like, all right, I got paid. What now? It's like you just got to keep on doing it. I mean, man, it's just one of those years, man. It's gonna be a tough, tough, tough year for Cowboy fans.
Right. And I'll be writing a piece on my blog about that soon. And it'll have more to do with the fact that, you know, how is this team still able to draw fans in with all this inconsistency and not being able to win a Super Bowl in the last 20 years, and like three playoff wins in that, and since the last time they won a Super Bowl.
And the one reason for that, Jerry Jones.
Ooh. Oh, that's gonna be the centerpiece of my writing. It's
Woo,
like
man.
Jerry want to win, but Jerry got to be the reason they win.
Yeah, Jerry's been getting in his own way for the last couple years, and as long as he keeps on doing that, these Cowboys ain't gonna get back to the promised land. He needs to step away. He's not a coach. You're an owner.
Yeah, he's
You
a
need to know your
meddler.
role. Yeah, he is, man. The only thing that's gonna happen is I think once he decides to retire and he hands the reins over to his son, hopefully he's learned and he can make better decisions than his daddy did. Don't
Well,
go down
we
that same road.
well so far we're seeing the apple is not falling far from the tree.
Yeah, unfortunately, man. But I hope. I always got hope. Maybe something will change.
Right.
But you never know, man. It
Jerry is
just
the new Al Davis.
he sure is, man. You know what? I wonder if when he passes away, if he's gonna wind up being buried in that stadium, man. And I'm being
Man,
serious.
I wouldn't be surprised. No, that stadium is cursed. No, they got a losing record in that stadium ever since it opened.
Yeah, not only that, but people been getting hurt. You've heard all the stories, people getting burnt and cut and all that stuff with all the benches and everything that they got on the outside of Texas Stadium, the
Hmm.
Cowboy Stadium. And I'm like, oh man, one of the worst things that they ever did with that stadium, they need to put more bathrooms in there, man. You ever been to You ever been to Cowboy Stadium?
No, I hadn't been there yet.
I'll tell you one thing, man. You better not be drinking a whole lot, because when you want to come back home and you got a long walk, it's gonna be a long walk.
Yeah, as big as that place is.
Yeah, man, they got a lot of porta potties out there, but you know what? There's a massive line to use them. So you know what guys do, man. You gotta go.
Mm,
You gotta go. So you start looking around.
yeah,
Oh Lord, man, it's a long walk home. That's all I can tell you.
yeah.
They need to get some better facilities up in that parking lot, man. I'm telling you. All right,
Instead
guys.
of
Well,
instead of building Walmart up in there.
yeah, right. Instead of the Walmart, put some facilities over there, man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's about all the time we have for today. This episode of the Countdown 210. I'd like to give a big shout out to Tom Tom. Thank you so much for coming out and being our special guest. And I also like to go ahead and mention a few of our sponsors: Mark Overton Lemon the third, Ed Luna Photography. We're also going to mention City Based Cinema, Game On, and we're also going to mention Native Grill and Wings and Sideliners Grill. We just had a watch parties out there at Sideliners Grill this last Saturday, and it was outstanding. Had a lot of fun, met a lot of good people. Big shout out to the ACLX Mopar Car Club of San Antonio. We greatly appreciate you guys coming out and showcasing all those gorgeous Mopar cars that y'all had out there. My favorite one is always that yellow and black Charger. Man, that thing is a beast. Just don't stand behind the muffler when that guy starts that thing up. You're gonna go deaf. So until next time, guys, go Spurs, go.